So still in the Sydney Turpentine Ironbark forest here, linking back to the video on turpentine. And you heard me say Sydney Turpentine Ironbark forest, and you might be wondering what the ironbarks are. Typically, they're Eucalyptus paniculata. And I'm pretty sure that would be one just here. And I've done a video on paniculata, and that's the ironbark just there. And I'm finding these all over the ground, which I'm pretty sure are good for paniculata. And see my video on that one. That's been done extensively. But there's another ironbark here as well. And, you know, we got to be familiar with the area to know that. But it's a bit of a, I'd say, atypical situation. There's another ironbark here alongside it, and that's Eucalyptus fibrosa. And that's what I've got in my hands here. And I don't think I've profiled Eucalyptus fibrosa before. Firstly, these are the fruits. They're sort of what we call piriform or pear-shaped, sort of longer than they are wide with those exserted valves. And I'm pretty sure that's good for fibrosa. It's a Western Sydney tree, and it gets in a Sutherland Shire here, and it's called the broadleaf ironbark. And I think it is one of the most easiest ironbarks to identify. It's pretty straightforward. It's got a big range. It goes right out into sort of northwestern parts of New South Wales. It can be on sandy soil, it can be on alluvium. It comprises some endangered ecological communities in Sydney, like the Cooks River Castlereagh Ironbark Forest. And it's growing here with the paniculata and the turpentine. And normally it'd just be paniculata we'd be getting. But we get fibrosa here as well, which is sort of cool and interesting. This shot probably won't help me, but there's one just here. And the thing about them is they've got really fat leaves, and you're probably not going to be able to see that there, but I'm going to try and demonstrate it to you. But they've got a nice broad, sort of broader. You can see some of the leaves are getting up to 3 to 4 centimetres wide, maybe even 5 centimetres wide, a bit like a mahogany, I guess. But the leaves are a bit more uneven, and they sort of have a variety of shape. But I reckon that's definitely one there. If you remember if you've seen the Eucalyptus paniculata video, the leaves were discolorous. They're one of the ironbarks that throws discolorous leaves, and it's a bit atypical. So you got to look for that discoloration going on with the leaves. However, fibrosa, they're going to have concolorous leaves. So, definitely concolorous and no sign of discoloration. I'll just try and find the plant that I'm looking for, and I'll come back. And here I've got an ironbark. More than likely, definitely fibrosa with these beautiful, genuine leaves. You can see they're pretty on the chunky side. I'd say the one I'm holding here is getting up to 35 mil across, possibly just 40 mils across. If I can get the light working, I'm in this dappled afternoon light now, it's a little bit tricky. They're concolorous. They're pretty much the same shade on both sides. And they're the broadleafed ironbark because they've just got leaves way bigger than paniculata. Just a nice, genuine leaf. Again, I'd sort of call it a mahogany leaf. They look different to mahogany leaves, but they're just that size. They're that nice, big, genuine size. Hopefully you're getting an idea of how big that leaf is. They're nice and silky smooth. And sometimes you've got to check them out. They look a bit like paniculata. But they just tend to be bigger and chunkier. And don't forget those fruit differences as well. Even as I look here, It's getting really interesting. I'm wondering if I've got a paniculata right next to a fibrosa. And we have had that this week when we've done some sort of vegetation assessment plots. But there's a separate paniculata video, you can look at that. But when you're getting leaves like this, I mean, man, that one there is, yeah, that's getting to 4 centimetres across easy, maybe more. Then it's really good for fibrosa. They've got a big genuine leaf. The leaf has a bit of a bluey green tinge, I always think. I think they're described as being green on some websites, but I think they've got a real bluey green hue to them. Maybe not a lot of blue, but definitely a bluey green sort of hint. But that just might be variation with people's eyes. But I don't describe them as sort of straightforward green. They're sort of bluey green. And I think that goes for a lot of ironbarks, actually. Yeah, concolorous. So just look for nice, genuine, fat leaves in the fibrosa. So just a tip I wanted to add. If you think you might be getting Eucalyptus fibrosa, what you really want to try and find are some saplings. And this is one of the defaults I always go with. Now, I don't know how I'm going to go here, but I'm going to try. Sorry, I am pulling some foliage down. Try not to do too much damage because we use these things for education and we try not to damage them too much. Even though I don't have completely intact leaves here, I pulled off 3 and it's from a sapling about, 4 metres tall. That is the size of them. And that's what Eucalyptus fibrosa does. And what I will argue is at least other Sydney and New South Wales eucalypts like Eucalyptus cribra, paniculata, which has the discolorous leaves and is also here. Eucalyptus bayeriana, Eucalyptus siderifloia, Eucalyptus sideroxylon. They won't do anything like this in the juvenile phase. This leaf I'm holding is, well, whatever the palm of my hand is. It's about, I'd give it 6 centimetres across. It's absolutely ginormous. It's not that long. It's about, 10, 15 centimetres, but it's 6 centimetres wide. And that's what you look for with saplings of fibrosa. This big, huge, genuine leaves. And when I walk into a bushland area of, patches in Western Sydney, I've walked into a national park around Dubbo, and I see these saplings with these massive leaves, and then you see the adult trees a bit further away, and you're pretty much assured that you've got Eucalyptus fibrosa. Again, the other ironbarks, they just don't do anything like this. This one even here is, they're probably stated as getting to like 10 centimetres across, possibly 8 centimetres across. They're just huge. And got 2 stuck together here with some webbing, and you can see they've been eaten, but they're just these massive leaves. And that's a bit of a default for Eucalyptus fibrosa. But that's one there, and I don't know if I can demonstrate it to you, but hopefully you can see how sort of fat the leaves are. Again, they're bluey green. They've got a beautiful, good to get some exercise here. Oh God, look at that one. I mean, that one is just, if I get my hand there, it's just absolutely massive. And just such a cool feature for fibrosa. Again, they're bluey green. Absolutely huge. If you study the other ironbarks, they just don't do anything like that in Sydney. Not that big and ample. I didn't really talk about buds. I always know with fibrosa they're a bit hard to get, but I've got some here. And yeah, that's what we're looking for. That big, long operculum. Sort of like a, I don't know why, I sort of call it like a witch's finger. So they've got this big long operculum on the buds, These are well past their best. They're fallen off the tree. They're a nice yellowy green colour when they're in, you know, fully ripe. These are sort of going to senesce now and die. They're fallen off. But check out that nice long operculum. It's a little bit curved. That's typical fibrosa. Typical fibrosa buds. And again, if you're going to look at the buds of paniculata, siderifloia, they're very different. They're very different to that. I think they're in 7s or possibly up to 11, 15. I'm just not sure off the top of my head. Start with 7 and probably go up from there. But they've got that nice curved operculum and that attenuate tip. And again, I just tend to call them witch's fingers. It's what they remind me of, sort of nailed fingers. That's your buds for fibrosa. Just the last reminder of the fruits again. Not the best example there, and I can only get one. Sometimes with fibrosa, I just find the fruit hard to find. But nice exerted valves there, and very sort of piriform. They're just a little bit hard to find sometimes, but I'm definitely under 2 trees here. 2 big fibrosa trees. That one at least anyway. The other one might be a stringy bark. But that's definitely fibrosa. There's a ton of buds though on the side of the road. But that's just finishing off with the fruit again. If I get down here, yeah, there's just a ton of buds there. Which I think are pretty good for fibrosa buds. Yep, but just remember those fruits. More piriform, different shape to paniculata. And that's a great example of fibrosa just there. Alrighty, it's probably enough for you.